progress on these tariffs, because every time it looks like nothing good is happening, the stock market plunges, and then he throws out these feelers or makes some other announcement about a delay, and the stock market goes up. And we do know he does care about the stock market. So I think they're desperately trying to show some kind of progress. They talk about India and this and that. I think China is the really tough nut. We have these huge reciprocal tariffs on both sides now. I think my personal view, which based on, I'm not obviously in the White House, is that I think Trump did not expect this kind of reaction from China when he put them on. I think he thought they would quickly come to the table because we buy so much stuff from them. But instead, Xi basically said, I'm a real country. My economy is essentially as big as yours, a lot more people. I make all kinds of stuff that you need, and I'm not going to be pushed around by you. And so he put on his tariffs, Trump put on more tariffs, and here we sit with 154% tariffs on imports from them, which basically means no imports. So the answer is, look, at some point, I think there will be conversations with China. I just don't believe at this point we're really making any progress.
What's your sense, Steve? Obviously, you're not in this White House, as you said, but you know people, you're connected to people. What I've heard from people on Wall Street is they're comforted to some extent that Scott Bessent is there, at least providing some reality checks about what tariffs do and what is going to happen to the economy, despite his public support of President Trump. What's your sense, though, of the conversations going on behind the scenes about the value or the damage being done by these tariffs? Yeah, I think Scott Bessent understands it. I think Keith Hennessy, who runs the National Economic Council, understands it and is on the right side of the issue. But this, as we've talked about before, is the one issue that Trump believes that he and he alone, to use one of his famous phrases, is really understands how valuable tariffs are. And he's got Peter Navarro, who Elon Musk more or less correctly described as dumber than a sack of bricks, kind of egging him on. And so people are critical of Bessent for not having made more progress dialing this back. But you've got a guy who's got the bit between his teeth, and he's just running for it.
Steve, why don't we bring on the air the conversation we were having privately, which is about what the effect is on American business. And what will it take for the people you talk with every day, CEOs and so forth, to essentially start making investments again, to basically say, okay, I can sell this or buy this because I now have confidence that the price that it's at now is reflective of its real value and in the same zip code as where it'll be in 6 months. What has to happen, and what's your sense of the timing? What's the most optimistic we could be on that?
Well, as it happens, I was just 2 days at a conference in Washington with a lot of CEOs. And what is striking is the unanimity of view among CEOs about how bad this policy is. You cannot find, I haven't yet to find, a single CEO who says, hey, this is great, you know, it's going to solve this problem or that problem. So they are deeply, deeply unhappy about the situation. And it has affected all kinds of business. Absolutely, deals have more or less come to a halt, as you know, now that you're in the investment banking world. And why wouldn't they? Who would buy or sell something when you have no idea what it might be worth 6 months from now when the whole tariff thing hopefully does get resolved? But all kinds of other decisions, investment decisions. Where do I build a plant? Do I not build a plant? Where do I build it? Everything is kind of on hold in this economy at the moment. And you have a very unhappy business community, and you also are going to start to see shortages of things. This is going to be, I'm going to exaggerate slightly, like the Soviet Union in the 1960s or something.
Empty shelves.
Empty shelves. Yep. You're going to see empty shelves where you can't, 90% of our toys are imported, and virtually all those come from China. If this goes on till Christmas, not so many toys at Christmas for the kids.
Not so merry.
Susan Page, I think one of the hopes of people who oppose these policies and see the damage they're doing to the economy is that at least President Trump would view the damage it's doing to him, and that might prompt him to reverse the policies. You're writing this morning about economic polling we've seen over the last couple of days that show his approval rating down generally, but really specifically down on the economy, down at 37% in one poll, 40% or so in another. Is there any sense that perhaps these numbers might give him some pause about the policies that he's endorsed and sticking by to this point?
Yeah, absolutely. I think only two issues matter front and center for President Trump. One is immigration. The other is the economy. And of course, the feeling Americans had of trust in him to handle the economy in a smart way was one of the fundamental reasons he was elected president both times. Both times he won elections. And yet that has been really undermined by the chaos that we've seen, by the turmoil in the stock market, by the concern that we heard in the clip that began this segment that we are at this moment almost in a recession or nearly in a recession. So this was in the Pew poll that just came out, this was a 19-point advantage, confidence in Trump on the economy when he was elected. It's now a 9-point negative. That's a huge swing of 28 percentage points of undermining, of erosion in confidence in him to handle the economy since he was elected on Election Day last November.
All right, Susan, stay with us. Steve, you're going to head over to the Southwest Wall to break down a different issue, why Americans are having fewer babies. It's a hot issue right now with Elon Musk and others talking about pronatalism. We'll explain all of that. Plus, we're getting a look at Time Magazine's new cover story and exclusive interview with President Trump on his first 100 days in